Sairam, let's start the study circle with 3 Oms. Om. Om. Dear Swami, we are so grateful to be able to meet here together in your presence today. While we are here together studying your word in your Bhagavatha Vahini, we ask that you open our ears and hearts to whatever it is you want us to learn. Please speak through each one of us and help us progress in our spiritual journey. Jai Sairam. Sairam, everyone. Just a little reminder, please mute your cell phones if you have not already done so. Other than that, we generally just try to keep the conversation respectful and be open-minded. We do try to ask the questions that arise, and the best practice would be to try to leave our egos outside of this discussion. That will help us to learn from us and from others. All right, just a review. We had a great session last week. There was a healthy discussion on unity and purity. We talked about how we are influenced by the society. We talked about mind control. We pointed to Shreyas and Preyas and having unconditional faith. We moved along to what is purity, and we defined certain things on leading ethical life, cleanliness of maintaining the cleanliness of body and mind, focusing on the purpose of our birth, which is self-realization, and the impact of the gunas that come in. Of course, it was very easily put that anything that binds us to the world can be construed as impure, and our faith and our progress to self-realization is what will lead to purity. We then watched a video about unity and purity. And we had various discussions on organization and group level unity versus individual growth of unity of thought, word, and action. And we talked about at the organization level or at a group level how we can deal with that. And then we had a quick session on just takeaways on unity before we moved along to the next chapter. So there were many good points shared, and I don't think I got them all. But I tried to get as many as I could from last week. So does anyone have anything to add before we move on? We'll be doing chapter 15 today. Okay, Sairam. So let's get started. We'll do, let me.
Bhagavatha Vahini, Chapter 15. The Reign of Emperor Parikshit. From the throne of Imperial Bharat, Parikshit ruled his dominion adhering to the principles of justice and morality, lovingly fostering his subjects and guarding them from harm with parental care and affection. Whatever may be the task he set his hands upon, Parikshit did not move one step without calling to mind Krishna and his grandfathers and praying to them to crown him with success. He prayed to them morning and evening to direct him along the correct path of virtue. He felt as if he was the heart of his people and as if they were his body. Throughout his empire, the very wind was reluctant to displace any article for fear of being implicated in theft. There was not the slightest fear of thieves, nor was there any trace of injustice, immorality, or ill will. The kingdom gained great fame thereby. At the slightest sign of any such evil, Parikshit overcame it by means of terrific punishment and instituted preventive steps. Since Dharma was thus fostered with love and reverence, even nature was kind. Rains came in time, crops grew high and rich, granaries were filled, people were contented, happy and unafraid. When Parikshit was on the throne, ruling over the empire with great care, the ministers and their spiritual masters, who were the guides of the dynasty, conferred among themselves and resolved that they must approach the king with a proposal that he should enter the grihastha stage, that is householder, by taking on a partner by marriage. They submitted their prayer likewise. When they found him agreeable, they asked his maternal uncle, Uttara of the Virata royal family, for the hand of his daughter. The Brahmins they sent to Virata returned with the happy news that he was happy over the proposal. The priests fixed an auspicious day and hour for the marriage, and the marriage of Parikshit and Airavati, daughter of Uttara, was celebrated with pomp and splendor. Queen Airavati was a great Sadhivani, gem among virtuous women. She was endowed with a tenacious love for truth. She was devoted to her husband. Whenever she heard that anyone in the empire was in distress, she was pained much, as if she herself had the calamity. She mixed with women of the capital and acquainted herself with their aspirations and achievements. She provided them with encouragement and consolation. She fostered the growth of virtue among them by teaching an example. She established institutions to promote and protect good character. She allowed women of all grades to approach her, for she had no false pride. She treated everyone with reverence. She was an angel of fortitude and charity. Everyone praised her as goddess Annapurna herself, the bestower of food in human form. During the reign of this king and his queen, men and women lived in peace and happiness, untroubled by want. Parikshit too arranged for the performance of many Vedic sacrifices and rituals. He arranged the worship in temples and homes of God in his manifold forms with his manifold names. By these and other means, faith in God were implanted in the hearts of his subjects. He promoted measures to ensure peace and harmony among the sages and saints who were living as recluses in forest hermitages. He guarded them in their silent retreats from man and beast. He exhorted them to probe into themselves and discover the laws of self-control. He supervised personally the steps taken to ensure their safety and security. Thus, Parikshit and Airavati ruled over the empire like Ishvara and Parvati, who ruled over the universe with parental love and care. Shortly, news that the queen was in the family way spread among the women and was confirmed. The subjects prayed to God at home and in public places of worship that he bless the queen with a son who will be endowed with all virtues and strength of character, who will be a staunch and unflinching adherent of dharma, and who will live the full span of years. In those ages, subjects loved the king so intensely that they renounced their own joys to please him. The king too loved them and guarded them as an apple of his eye. Parikshit saw and heard the enthusiasm of the subjects at the auspicious prospect of the advent of a child to continue the dynasty. He shed tears of joy when he realized how deeply his people were attached to him. He felt that the affection was the contribution of his grandfathers and the gift of Lord Krishna's grace. Parikshit did not deviate from his resolve to serve the best interests of his people. He gave up his own likes and dislikes for this great task. He looked upon his subjects as his own children. The bond that brought the king and people together in such close and loving relationship was indeed of a high holy order. Therefore, his people used to say that they would prefer his kingdom to heaven itself. Meanwhile, on an auspicious day, the son was born and the whole land was filled with inexpressible joy. Sages, scholars and statesmen sent blessings and good wishes to the king. They declared that the new light had dawned on the state. Astrologers consulted their books and calculated fortunes of the child from them. They announced that he will enhance the glory of the dynasty, bringing added reputation on his father's name and win the esteem and love of his people. Parikshit invited the family preceptor to the palace and consulted also the Brahmin priests in order to fix a date for the naming ceremony of the child. Accordingly, during an elaborately arranged festival rite, the child was named Janamejaya. The Brahmins who were present were given costly gifts on the suggestion of Kripacharya, the doyen among the Brahmin advisors of the king. Cows with golden ornaments on horns and hoofs were given away in large numbers. All were fed sumptuously for days on end. When Dharmaraja set out upon his final journey, he had entrusted the little boy on the throne of Kripacharya, and as a true trustee, Kripa was advising the boy king and training him in statecraft. As he grew up, this dependence became more fruitful. The king seldom strayed from his advice. He sought it always and followed it with reverential faith. Hence, the sages and recluses of the kingdom prayed for his health and long life, and extolled the people's happiness and the ruler's solicitude for their welfare. Parikshit was the overlord of the kings of the earth, for he had the blessings of the great, the counsel of the wise and the grace of the god. After his long campaign of conquest, he encamped on the bank of the Ganges and celebrated as a mark of his victory 3 horse sacrifices with all the prescribed rituals. His fame spread not only over the length and breadth of India, but even far beyond its borders. He was acclaimed by every tongue as the great jewel of the Bharat royal family. There was no state that had not bent under his yoke. There was no ruler who set his command at naught. He had no need to march at the head of his army to subdue any people or ruler. All were only too willing to pay him homage. He was master of all lands and people. The spirit of wickedness and vice, known as Kali, had already come in with the end of Krishna era. So it was raising its poisonous hood off and on, but Parikshit was vigilant. He adopted measures to counterfoil its stratagems and machinations. He sought to discover the footprints of his grandfathers throughout his realm, in the reforms they introduced and the institutions they established. He reminded his people, whenever occasion arose, of their nobility and aspirations. He told them of Krishna, his grace and mercy. He shed tears of joy and gratitude whenever he related to them these stories. He was sincerely pining for the chance he had lost to have the Pandavas and Krishna by his side. He knew that Kali had entered his kingdom and was endeavoring to fix its hold on the minds of men. When he became cognizant of its activities, he investigated into the conditions favorable for its spread, and with the active cooperation of his teachers and the elders, he enacted special laws to counteract the tendencies Kali aroused. When the elders advised him that such precautions need to be taken only when wickedness emerges as crimes, Parikshit did not support that opinion. He was for alertness. He wanted to give the lead to his people. Yata Raja, Tata Praja is the proverb, he said. That is, as the ruler, so the ruled. He declared that Kali or wickedness can have sway only through the incompetence of the ruler, the loss of self-reliance among the people, the decline in the earning of grace. These 3 are the factors that promote the plans of Kali. Without them, man cannot fall a prey to his wiles. Aware of this, Parikshit went round his kingdom and sought day and night to drive Kali out of his hounds. That is to say, he attempted to give no room to injustice, evil character, untruth and violence. His preventive plans were effective. He had so much peace in his kingdom that he campaigned in the Bhadrasva, Ketumala, Uttarakura and Kimpurusha regions.
All right, Sairam. That is chapter 15. This was about how Parikshit ruled the kingdom. Of course, there's great things to be said. So I thought we'll focus on leadership and dharma today. Mostly leadership and governance of the Parikshits, the way they wrote it. First off, how righteous leadership can positively influence the society. I mean, compared to what we do today, of course, today being the Kali age, maybe that is not relevant. I don't know, but definitely, the role of faith that Parikshit shows in leadership, the role of unity and purity in his leadership. How he talks to his people like they are his own, and also how he relates the people of the land to his own family and to his own self, even in many many ways Swami has described that. So I thought we can discuss that, and then I do have a video so to talk about what Swami says about leadership. So if we can start the discussion, or we can go to the video first and then come back to the discussion. Go to video, is that okay? Okay.
There are many ways to do it at Planet Fitness, but only one way to start. Come in.
Sai Ram, I'm here to share with you a secret on how to become a true leader so that everybody listens to you and follows you. Wouldn't that be great? But to do that, I would like you to indulge me for a couple of minutes and do everything that I tell you to do. Okay? Ready? Raise your right hand. I know you're watching a video, but please humor me. You will enjoy it and you will learn better. Raise your right hand. Thank you. Place the right hand on your head. Good. Now place the left hand on your chest. Fantastic. I know you're looking funny, but hold on, just a minute. Now place your right hand on your chin. I told you to place it on the chin, and I don't know how many of you placed it on the cheek, like me. The point of this exercise is to show that actions speak louder than words. But it is not just about actions. When we read Swami's Mahavakya on leadership, the great treatise on leadership compiled by General Chibbar, we will realize that Swami says the 4 stages of leadership are to be, to do, to see, and to tell. Telling comes last. Before telling, you have to see whether it is the right desha kala paristhiti, whether it is the right place, right time, and right situation to tell that. But before that, you have to do it. We should speak only what we do. But even before that, Swami says it is to be. It is not just enough to do as an eye wash. We have to firmly believe in it. We have to be that. Meaning, we will do even when nobody is watching, because we are being that. So that's it. That is the formula, the short formula for leadership. To be, to do, to see, and then to tell. And when we tell, at that point in time, everybody will listen to us. Everybody will follow us. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. So I thought that was a funny video to kind of just start our discussion at many levels. So and Swami's very easy to follow. When you say to be, to see, to do, to tell. And generally when we are in a leadership role, we tell first. We always go in and tell first versus doing all of the other 3 steps. So I thought that is where so starting with that, how does that Swami's process lead us to being good leaders then?
Sai Ram, before the video, you had mentioned that something to the effect that maybe it's in the Kali age, it is not. But I think we do have an example in the case of Bhutan.
Yes.
If you just look at that country, it's amazing. The king of Bhutan is just like the common man, going and helping and doing all the chores,
yes,
mixing with the people. And that person is truly a leader, following Swami's example of a true leader, because he is being, and then he's doing, and then he's seeing and telling.
Seeing and
So
then
when he tells, I'm sure everybody will follow, because they can see that straight in him. So it is possible. Only thing is, in the commercial world, economically, that country may not be treated as a rich country, but in the happiness index, that's the number one.
Yeah.
So I think we do have an example. Only thing is, the choice is in us. Probably we are just aligning ourselves with whatever we.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, please go ahead. Abhita, you wanted to add something? Mahavakya on leadership.
Yeah. I have that book.
Yeah.
If you want, I can show you. It is right there.
Yeah.
Okay, Sairam. So Bhutan is a good example, but I wonder, like, the place, the size of the country, the kingdom, does it make any difference? See,
Yes.
like Parikshit's time, he
Bhutan time.
ruled the thing, but also the period also it's different in those days and versus now, Kali Yuga. Even at the border of Kali Yuga, he took preventive measures to stop and implemented some laws even before it happened, crimes. But now we are way into the Kali Yuga. So now how much of our leaders can reach everyone? So, or we can break it down to small units like family we can take. So in family, we can apply the you be, you see, you do, and tell. At that level, if we practice those 4 steps, right?
That's a good start.
Right, it's a good start. And then we can expand, or we can come to like Sai Center, right? So we can expand to this in a satsang. Individually, if we do it at home, and then we can practice as a unit here. So like that we can do. I don't think any one leader can do any of this and influence the citizens.
I think a leader need not be well-known, like a president of a
Politician,
country or anything like that.
It's leaders, they are not able to reach everyone.
So
right?
I think, as you rightly said, a leader in a family also there can be a leader. In a small group, there can be a leader. So the leader definition need not be a well-known person of any sort.
It's not a leader for the namesake, but it is some example, somebody we can look up to, somebody, who you can model after. Like, children can do that with parents or siblings, or we can emulate, others around us. We can take it.
But even now with families also, we have now become nuclear families, with smaller units, Before there were larger units, we used
unit, 4 people, let's say.
Agreed,
in a
agreed.
family. We can do that.
some.
We don't do that. Consciously, if we take that effort, it can be done.
Per se, there is no title like a leader.
Yes.
Whoever follows what they believe in is a leader. Like, you do not have the title of a king or title of a CEO, but they say, oh, because CEO is following those rules, he is a leader. So leader is not a title. It's just kind of showing what you are doing, what you are preaching, what you believe in, what you're preaching. Doesn't need to have a title of a leader in this case. It can be an individual. If I follow my principles, my preachings, and what I believe in, exactly what Trikarana Shuddhi just follows. And normally people who look at you will believe in you, will follow you, but you are not a leader. It's not a title. Anybody can believe in you, anybody can follow if you are following that Trikarana Shuddhi. So there is no definition of leadership in this process.
See, I think I'm just seconding what Dhananjay said. A leader is not doing or telling something because he wants to be a leader. That is one thing. He is just being and then doing and seeing and telling. And when that happens, the people around automatically see that person as a leader. They regard that person as a leader because they're able to see that thing. So that is how I don't think a leader, as you said, I don't think there is a leader who first becomes a leader and then starts being. I think it's the opposite.
No, see, leaders can be good or bad, right? There are people who had influenced crores of people, like we can say Hitler. He influenced so many to do evil things. He was a leader, called so-called leader. And there are in religious things, cult leaders. They influence people to do atrocities. So the name of leader is somebody who can take you either way, who is leading you to do good things or leading you to do bad things. Both are leaders.
So leader, okay, so that anyone, so there are people who have the power with their words to influence others. Okay, that is the person that you're talking about. Okay, so they are, I don't know if they are leaders in terms of.
Yeah, I want to add here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the Mahavakya that was quoted, I have read that book, but it's talking about leadership. It's not talking about a leader. Okay. So how to, the leadership need not be, a big, large, group of people that you're known the chief or something. It can be even in work environment. It could be a small project that you are doing. Uh, take that project, to do it in the best possible way with all the ethics and everything that we're talking about here. Then, if you are able to make that and convince the small group of people, you have displayed leadership role. And you may be a small fry in that thing. So that doesn't matter. So I think that is what that book talks about. And that's what I
So,
think.
no, in that book, I think it describes the leader as to be. The part where it is to be, that's when he talks about all the qualities of, and I was going to break it down in future sessions to kind of talk about that. But again, you were going to say something, so I don't want to.
I think, Sairam, I kind of disagree with the idea that there is no someone called a leader or leader. Yeah, there is. In every step of our lives, there are leaders that we look up to, either, or they're leading us, including at workspace. I mean, if you leave it to individual people to carry on a project, it's going to be haywire. Everyone comes up with their own ideas, and it's not going to be successful. So there is always a person in charge for a group of people to carry out a project. And this has been there for, God knows how long. Even in kingdoms, there were people in charge for like the army, people in charge for the for studying or, whatever it may be, divisions were made and there were leaders allotted for that. So the question is not about that. The main question is, what our behavior should be like. Like, I think I kind of agree with what Uma said. There is no macrocosm without micros, right? There is no body without a cell. Even the cell is ruled by its own, there's some set of things that it has to follow. It is not working on, it follows certain rules of behavior, even the smallest cell. So what are those rules? Are those important? Will that, that is the main question, I think. And yes, all these virtuous behaviors are very important. If you're not, these small families create the society. Society creates a country creates the world. So it absolutely is very important to start there. So it goes all the way up. When the top person whoever is responsible, you're electing, is completely like devoid of all these things. The whole, like he showed, place your hand on the chin, we all place it on, we are looking at him, and yeah. So a lot of people will be led astray. But if your foundations are strong, maybe not that many people will be influenced, maybe they will still try to do the right things.
So just to get some more clarification on these definitions, because it's a very gray word, right? A leadership. And Bumaji said a leadership can be a bad leadership where they are influencing the people in a bad direction. or maybe we are influencing them in a right direction. So leadership is something a kind of neutral word, I would say. But whoever is influencing, they are not actually having the title of, because if you look at the Hitler or take any example, so they are actually a general grown up in that army. Like if a company is having a boss, he's having a title. Do you really call them as a leader, though he's a boss? Is my boss, but is a leader or not? That's up to that qualification that he has to possess. I might have a different leader, even though he's my boss in my work, but I have a different leader outside. So this leader word is attached to the title of the company somebody is holding and is a virtuous person. Then we call is a leader. He's already leading and he's also having the qualifications. So we are calling them as a leader. But it's not titled a given title that is attached to anybody else here. That's a very I would say whoever is actually having that qualities, I would say they are leaders outside.
Right. Great. Yes, please go ahead. I know he's been waiting to talk.
So to continue with what Dhananjay said, leader is a person, or a leadership is a role where a leader actually doesn't know that he's being leading, that doesn't have to be in that charishma of that I'm leader, people are following me. A man, or I mean, like a leader should, whenever he's accepted as a leader, should leave his wearing the form of that he's been elected as a leader. That is something which comes up with the practice of karma karma vedantam or karma siddhantam. Because for example, what I'm trying to say is, a lion doesn't know that it is a king of jungle. We all say that it's a king of jungle because the way it's behaving, it is showing us how to behave, so that we named him as king of jungle. It doesn't reflect the way it is, and it says to be like it. The same way, a small example. In 2011 World Cup, we all know MS Dhoni, right? MS Dhoni is an Indian captain once. And in 2011, in the Indian World Cup final, after we won, he gave a trophy to his teammates, and he's standing behind somewhere else thinking about some other things. So this small example shows that as soon as the duty is completed, he got off that position. He doesn't. So that is why he's called Captain Cool or something. So how you be is how you reflect the eternity to, I mean, like the reflection outside, and how people follow it. How you be an example without knowing that you're showing an example is the quality of leadership that is required.
Very true. That's true. Very nicely put. Thank you, Sai. Yeah, Manojji, please go ahead.
So in fact, what I was about to say is the second and third question. That is.
I was going to move.
Yeah.
Please
So
go ahead.
that gives. Once we do that.
Yeah.
So that is a series. So of the events, that purity and unity, and then faith, and then going to the leadership role. If we follow that kind of process, so those leaders would be successful and would be good as the Bhutan leader. So there are two kinds of leaders, as Umaji was mentioning. Who can influence a person who is good in all respects, but if he does not has the capacity to influence, it's not going to benefit the society also. The capacity to influence, not only so people are Atmagyanis. If they are sitting in caves, they are just doing Atmagyan for themselves. People are Bhaktas. If they're doing it in a corner, they are doing it for themselves. How to make masses move in that direction is also very important. It's so important. So Atmagyanis, I mean, when they have reached there, but how would you hold hands of others to go in that direction? So that influence, or definitely it would be the reflection of their inside, which will be influencing out. But they also need to intend to do that. They also need to come forward to do that. Like Baba would have sat in a corner, in a corner and lived his life happily. He came forward to influence the people, to bring masses together, to tell someone to go to Kenya and do that hospital, to do so. That spirit is needed. So a leader not only should have those qualities, but he should intend to come forward and should have that personality and that kind of character to influence also. A person staying in all these good things, but sitting in a corner not doing it, that's not of much use to the
Yeah.
society.
To the society. Yeah, I was just going. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think everybody is meant to be a leader. But those who are so-called leaders who come the opposite way of telling people what they should do and not being or not even going to the extent of seeing or they just tell. That's what is predominantly who the leaders of today are. So those people are going to be very, very short-lived. In other words, they will be a leader today, but tomorrow they may be in the jail. Okay, so that's completely. So they are not like real leaders. So they are so-called leaders. People are following because of some gain they may perceive to get from that.
So, yeah, please go ahead.
So coming back to this, so we were discussing last session about, see, the whole thing is on the being part. So to be is the biggest thing. So that's where we need to focus. If you focus on the be, to be, then automatically whether you become a leader or not, it's up to you, because you're not care. If you focus on be, you don't care if others follow or not, because you want to be there. So whether you become a leader or not is up to that. That's not your criteria. Not everybody wants to be a leader. Not everybody has to be a leader. That's what I think.
Yeah. Can I say something? Yeah. We just watched President Carter, who passed away at the age of 100. So he comes from a peanut farmer's family in a small town, Georgia. So what happened? He was hands-on. He was a carpenter. He was doing a lot of things, following his father's footsteps. But when he became a governor and president, they call his presidency was a failure. He one-time president, but he brought peace also in the Middle East and all that. He accomplished a lot of things. But according to whatever the poll, whatever this in American politics, he was not a very successful president. But that's not the story. It doesn't end there. What he did with his life, for 70, 75 years, served the community. He was very active in building the, humanitarian, all these houses for poor people. And in Africa, he eradicated the diseases, a lot of them, So he dedicated his whole life. He was much more successful than quote unquote successful president, right? So what did he do? He didn't tell people what to do. He was being. He led by his example. He's highly respected. He has achieved a lot. He was an ordinary human being, had his flaws, but overall, what he achieved in his life, I could think of that as an example. He didn't even have to tell anyone. He was just being what is goodness, what to do with your time and your energy. I thought it is very inspiring to listen.
Yes, Sairam, thank you.
So I want to just give one example I came across, in Swami's, life. In this, when I was in 2000, when I was there, heard this story when they started this Grama Seva project. So apparently the way it started was one day, somebody in the ashram was reading a newspaper and talked about somebody in a nearby village because of lack of food, they don't have money, they don't have resources, they committed suicide and, something like that. And that was the news. Swami like that. And, Swami said, oh, for me, for a moment, I was thinking, why, Swami should have known this, right? Yeah. And, still he allowed that to happen. That was my first thought. But what Swami did was, he said, you come across millions of thoughts like this every day. We come across such news. But what it showed was, how can you convert that news into action? So immediately he collected his students and he said, from today we are going to start this program of, packaging food, going to the village, and make sure that everybody is fed. And he made a beautiful order for that. He will say, you just go, don't give a whole bunch of food packets to each family. They will have to go find out how many people are there and count the number of packets for them. So he made sure that people were there and the people were given. So everything was done in a very proper. So I thought that example was more like how to develop a leadership. He's not going to influence every little thing like that, but he just through that example he gave us how a leadership role can be created.
And I think that's most of us, because we all play this leadership role when certain things happen in certain circumstances. We don't really, we play the role, and we should be aware of the role at that point and be able to step back when it is not. So and kind of just do our duty after that. I think that piece, a lot of us kind of skip the beat on, because we don't know when to stop being a leader.
When Umaji mentioned about Carter, Om said the leadership from Trudeau, how it can be the other way around.
Yeah, that's true. Nice. Om.
So normally every person has a title, like, where they can influence certain amount of number of people. If it is a company CEO or maybe president, they all already have a position up in there, and there are a lot of people they can influence. So if they possess these virtuous habits, that takes them to next level. They already have that entitlement, and then it adds up a flavor to that title, and they can influence a lot of other people in a positive direction. For example, in the house, when you are looking up, you have a parent there. If parent has that role, then you look up and you will be easily influenced by parent, because he's already parent. Moreover, plus he's having all the virtuous qualities. So then when you look up, you look at, okay, he's my leader, he is my idol to look up. But if father role is there, you respect him as a father, but it doesn't have all these good qualities which you expect. You respect him because of fear or maybe some other obligations, but outside you don't consider him as your idol to follow. So that's what everybody should look at. What I'm possessing, whatever the role I play, doesn't matter. What I'm possessing is a very important point in this.
All the time, we need to play the role consciously, right? What we are saying, what we are doing, right? Then it goes to the thinking part of it. What we are thinking to begin with, then only it becomes the words and action. Again, it ties with the unity and purity here.
Sairam, see, you mentioned about, you mentioned about being conscious of the role that we play.
Yes.
I don't know if we would play differently if we think our role is a leader or
No.
a follower.
So when you have a leadership role, many times ego takes over. You don't know when to stop that.
Yeah.
And that is something that you should be very cognizant of. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. See, that's where, I mean, when do you think there will be a leadership role?
So I can give my personal example and experience. I don't know about others, but wherever I go, I have a loud voice. I tend to kind of draw attention to what I have to say, only because I'm louder than most people. First thing. Secondly, when I'm sitting in an office setting, I generally have I cannot take ambiguity. So when I start asking questions, automatically people expect that I know the direction I want this project, or I'm a project manager by profession. So they already expect that, oh, I already have this idea of how this project should work, only because I'm asking the questions which they have not asked themselves or each other. That is, either there is no clarity in their thought process, or the project simply lacks that kind of direction, and I just tend to provide it. But the minute someone else steps in, as they may or may not have the title, but if they step in, I should be able to step back and be in the project manager role, not in a people manager role, or show the direction of that project, right? My role should, so that is what I'm saying. Like, people don't give that up. Many people ask me to actually answer their questions only because I ask those questions and I write those things down. I have a process in place for them, but that does not define me as the leader. It is an interim position only because that was not clearly defined in whatever that we were doing at that particular time. Yes, please go ahead. So we should be able to cognize, I mean, we should be able to step back. That's all I'm saying.
When we talk about leadership, I think we're talking a lot about, okay, if it's a leader, it's that person, it's me.
Yeah.
You know, that's not what leadership is. What leadership is not about you. It's about recognizing those around you. You give the voice to the people that don't want or are shy to talk. You pay attention to others, because there was somebody that I worked with who was a pretty high position, and she told me, you can lead from anywhere. Absolutely true. In fact, when you don't have a title, it's better, in my opinion, in my experience, because you have, instead of using the word leadership, I like to use the word influence, right? I had a mentor who said the power of influence in a good way, and how you influence that is more of a leadership. I think, because sometimes I think we equate leadership with title, but you know,
Many
that is that many, and in fact, all the times when it's actually the people that don't have the title that actually can have the influence and be able. But what a true leader is not about yourself. It's the ability to recognize others. It's the ability to bring out the best in others and put them together to do. President Carter. So I don't know if you all watched the funeral. I had, because we got the day off, I actually watched it. And as a young child in Singapore growing up, we watched the news every single day. And I remember in the 70s watching him. I remember the hostage situation. I remember the Camp David Accord, all of that. I don't remember yesterday, but I remembered all of that. But it was amazing that the sons of Walter Mondale, his vice president, and Gerald Ford, who was a Republican, their sons were given the eulogy, what they would have written and what they wrote about him. And they say that he was a failed president, but actually, no. In fact, it took for him to die for people to know what he did. And what made him, and you know what he did as a leader? This is the true thing of a leader. When they went to rescue the hostages, okay, he said that if we succeed, the credit will go to the general. But he said, if we fail, it'll be my fault. And that's exactly what he did. He went in front of the country when they failed, and he said, I take full responsibility. How many leaders do you know do that? They don't. Very few. In fact, they throw everybody that works beneath them under the bus. So when we talk about leadership, we seem to equate about us, the person, but a true leader is somebody that pulls the best out of the ones that don't have the voice, that sees the talent, that sees what they can bring to the team. That is what leadership is.
President Carter, the Carter Center is all over the world. You know, when you talk about leadership, he is the real leader. The centers are all over the world. They build houses for the poor and all the vaccination, all the medical help they do. It is everywhere. So the influence you said. So if one person is influencing so many countries to initiate all these programs and successfully running, that is a great leadership. Baba was a great leader because, like you said, he can sit in a corner and just get his enlightenment, you know. But he influenced so many all over the world, regardless of their religion, race, whatever it is. But they put them into good use, make them be a better person. He said, you can be a Christian, but be a better Christian. It doesn't matter which religion you follow, right? That kind of a leadership is amazing.
You know, one other thing, I was so amazed, this man, I did not know this, that while he was president, every Sunday, he flew back home and preached Sunday school every single Sunday. Talk about faith.
That I heard he was never late for the Bible Sunday school. One day he came late because that was the day his son's funeral. He lost his son, one of the son. Even then, the commitment to go and preach. That's amazing.
Sairam, I have a question here. So while you're talking a few moments ago, you said about your anyone's role in different industries. So let's consider the spiritual and materialistic world. Okay. So while one individual is a leader in a spiritual role, his wavelength of taking leadership would be different. While coming to the practical field, suppose consider any IT industry or something, his level of the wavelength of him portraying the leadership would be definitely different. So the listeners are different there. So when you go to Prashant Nilayam and you're doing seva, so you don't yell at people, you don't shout at people, right? So as simple as that, when you are taking some leadership in a commercial company or IT company, if definitely the things are not going right, you would at least at point of time you would try to yell at the people and make the work done. Okay. So now in the spiritual world, you are very conscious that however things might go wrong, you should not go to the level of your high threshold. But here that consciousness is missing. So how should one leader, how one leader
Okay,
should...
I will answer that question. This is a very good...
Still have some more points. Sorry. So how one individual should conceal the balance, and if he really does that, is he really portraying leadership and is he switching roles? Or point two is, if he maintains the same wavelength everywhere, will people accept that, or will people listen to him and respect the leader, is my question.
So spirituality is not, let's be very clear, is not which we do somewhere in the corner of our life. Spirituality is to be practiced and implemented in the whole world, in what we do, wherever we go. That should be kind of pouring out of our body, in our speech, in our vision. Spirituality is not to be done in temple only. It is a center to learn the spirituality, but apply in the world. That's one part of it. So yelling is not wrong, what you're saying. Yelling is not wrong. When to yell, how much to yell, and don't, and there should be a higher reason for yelling. So if he's doing spiritual thing in the temple and coming and yelling over there, that's still okay. He should be wise enough when to use that, as Baba has written in that book, which Venkatji has mentioned last time on purity, that purity of speech. Purity of speech is, be truthful, be, use a pleasant thing. But if the time comes when it is a question of being polite, soft, and lovingly versus truth has to prevail. So if you have to be rude and yell, he's not doing it from inside. He's just doing it to get it implemented. He's not going to take that ego, that anger home. No, it's just so he needs to learn that skill to how to make the things good, how to make the truth prevail also. For that, he has to yell. He's doing it from outside. That's it, not from inside.
I just one last thing, and then I'm not going to say this again, only because Uma, you started it, so this is a good example. But what you're saying, you want a real life example? Once again, President Carter. I mean, like, that man never wavered with his spirituality, his belief in God. Like, as the president of the, at that time, most powerful country in the world, that's exactly what he did. So there is I don't think there's anybody else. I mean, if there's any leader, any person that honestly has nothing bad that they've done, that is your example.
Yes. So I ask this question because I'm very much less experienced in, this level of topic. So that is why I asked the question, how to balance between roles everywhere. That's
so to answer, it's a very practical question, basically. So we all face that especially in the workplace.
Correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a leader, not a boss. There is a difference between, they have this professional words, boss versus leader, and they define what is the boss qualities,
Yes.
what is the, you go to LinkedIn, it will define there, but ignore all that. So if you are a leader, you are not going to yell or scream, right? Basically, how to get that work done. Being angry and upset is a different status. Acting being angry is a different state. So you are not really angry, but you are acting. So what happens if you are angry, you carry that emotion even after the work. You will be upset with that person outside the work. That is very normal tendency. But if the work is not done, but you are acting that you are upset and angry, after 1 hour, you both will be talking normally again. So that person will not take it to personal level because you are angry. That reflects, that person will take it into his mind. He will be upset with you, and whatever the output you are expecting, that will not be delivered. He will try to twist that and get away from the task. Somehow he will twist you that, right? But if you're acting, and then the moment 1 hour, you come normal, you have same relation with him, that reflects in his work also. So this is very practical, and it's not that easy, believe me. It's always very hard to control our emotions being in a normal status. But when you reach that level, probably you will be a very good leader, successful leader. That's what I say.
Sairam, see, I'm reminded of that one episode where Swami is there. It's a big episode. I don't want to go into all the details. This person who is somewhere way in the east coast, east of the world, in the East Asia or somewhere, is about to shoot himself because there is a severe loss. Okay, and the Swami sends a person to go and tell him without giving any reason why he should go and meet. He just says, go and see this person. So this person goes and sees him. At that time, he has a gun in his socks. He takes out the gun, and he said that if he had not come, I would have shot myself because of severe economic loss. And then Swami says, you come. So after 2 weeks, he comes to Prashanti Nilayam, and the person who was sent to see him also is there in Prashanti Nilayam. So he takes both into the interview room, and Swami blasts him. So now the reason why I'm saying that is to shout. You raised the point of yelling, right? So when Swami yells, so the blast is the word that this person described. And Swami is telling in Telugu, and he wants this person to translate and tell in English to that other person, because that person cannot understand Telugu. So he's trying to dilute it, and Swami is blasting him. Don't dilute it. Say exactly what I say, what I'm saying. Okay, so now that is to further your point, Swami, the whole purpose of that whole thing is to show that love is prevailing the whole thing. So the love there, Swami's love to transform that person has to take that form of that yelling or blasting. That's when that person will change. So it all depends. So now, does that mean that Swami is saying talk nicely, talk lovingly, all that? But does that mean he's deviating? It's not. It depends on that situation. It depends on that person, what would make that person change. Yeah.
Yeah, Sairam, please.
Just one word I want to add here, and that is whatever be our role. It could be a father, it could be a worker, it could be a boss. We have to just think that that is a role that we are doing. And as long as we remember that all the time,
Correct.
for that role, whatever is needed is what we need to do.
Yeah, that was my point as well. All right, we have just a minute. We can continue the discussion next week. We will start with 2B and 2do 2C. So we will have a little video, and then we will talk about the leadership role there, and then move along to the next chapter the following week. So with that, we can end with Om and Three Shantis, I think. Okay, the life application is Namasmarana. I did not change it. So let us commit to chanting the divine name, whatever in any form or any name that you may pick. Thank you. Let's end with Om and Three Shantis. Om. Jai Sai Ram. Thank you all for participating today.
Sai Ram.